There's a moment, often sudden, when life stops feeling linear. Habits are no longer enough to cover up the emptiness that stretches between one choice and the next. Everything on the surface keeps flowing as usual, yet something cracks. There's a growing awareness of a vast, silent space beneath it all, a space no one dares to name. In that moment, freedom stops being an abstract word and becomes a tangible weight, like a boundless sky under which no predetermined paths remain. It's in this space that existentialism is born, not as a closed doctrine, but as a radical way of looking at existence without easy shelters, without prefabricated dogmas. Three thinkers in particular cross this space with relentless clarity: Jean-Paul Sartre, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Martin Heidegger. Each, through his own language and life, confronted the same question: what does it mean to be free in a world without absolute certainties? Jean-Paul Sartre opens this perspective with a famous line: "We are nothing more than what we make of ourselves." With a single sentence, he overturns centuries of thought that sought in human beings some fixed essence, destiny, or immutable nature. For him, there is no predetermined form. We are born without a blueprint, and we become what we decide to be day after day through our choices. Freedom, in his view, is not a benevolent gift, but an unavoidable condition. No one can escape the responsibility of choosing, not even by refusing to choose. That's the paradox. Freedom is at once a creative possibility and a crushing weight. On one hand, it opens infinite paths. On the other, it demands ownership of everything that follows, without excuses. Sartre calls bad faith the attempt to deny this condition by taking refuge in roles or external justifications. When someone says, "There's nothing I can do, that's just life," what's actually happening is an escape from their own power to choose. In that gesture, there's no authenticity, only fear. To make this concrete, Sartre tells the story of a young man facing an impossible decision: stay by his ailing mother's side or leave to join a conflict. No universal law, no imposed morality can solve that dilemma. The answer can only come from within, from the individual's real values, and every decision carries full responsibility. Freedom, in this sense, is never light. It's a creative act that shapes the very being of the one who chooses. While Sartre analyzes freedom as an inescapable condition, Friedrich Nietzsche experiences it as an artistic challenge. Become who you are. This is his essential formula. For him, freedom is not simply a natural right, but an ongoing process of emancipation from the invisible chains of culture, morality, and collective habits. Nietzsche observes modern society and sees individuals bent under the weight of inherited values, unable to invent their own direction. From this observation emerges the figure of the overman, not a superior creature in the banal sense, but a human being capable of surpassing the weight of received values and creating new ones. It's someone who refuses to merely follow predefined rules, turning life into a work of art instead. Meaning is not accepted passively. It is generated, shaped, experimented with. A central concept in his thought is the eternal return. Nietzsche invites us to imagine every moment of life repeating endlessly, every gesture, every word, every choice, destined to return forever. This radical idea isn't a theoretical game, but a way to test the sincerity of one's actions. If each moment had to be relived for eternity, which choices would stand the test of repetition? The eternal return forces one to look life straight in the face and decide whether to accept it fully, light and darkness included, without discounts. Nietzsche doesn't deny the void and the loss of meaning that run through modernity, but he doesn't see them as an end. He sees them as a passage, a chance to rebuild from the ground up what has collapsed. His own life, marked by solitude and physical suffering, stands as living proof of his philosophy. Even amid fracture, he kept writing works that still shake thought today, such as Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Beyond Good and Evil. Martin Heidegger takes this discussion into a different, deeper territory. He doesn't focus as much on individual freedom as a power of choice or creation, but on the human relationship with reality itself. Man is the shepherd of being, he says. With this image, he emphasizes that human beings carry the unique responsibility of questioning the meaning of their own existence. Freedom, in his perspective, isn't an abstract concept, but something that reveals itself through the way one lives each day. His major work, Being and Time, explores the condition of being there, Dasein, a term he uses to describe the human being as the only one capable of questioning its own existence and consciously choosing how to relate to it. For Heidegger, Dasein is defined by the awareness of its own finitude. Knowing that life is limited generates anxiety, but this anxiety isn't a flaw to be eliminated. It's the threshold through which authentic existence can emerge. Only those who face this condition head-on can live fully, without dissolving into social roles and conventions that numb the fundamental question: what does it mean to be here? Heidegger draws a clear line between authentic and inauthentic existence. In the authentic mode, an individual confronts their limits and chooses based on values they truly recognize as their own. In the inauthentic mode, one is carried away by the current of common opinions, by daily passivity, losing the ability to question. His critique of modernity is remarkably sharp. He sees in technology and the utilitarian domination of the world a force that distances human beings from the mystery of existence. When everything is reduced to a resource to be exploited, reality loses its depth. Being becomes a warehouse of tools, and humanity loses its ability to contemplate. Heidegger symbolically contrasts a forest, an emblem of mystery and living presence, with a power plant, symbolizing the reduction of the world to mere means. For him, regaining freedom means rebuilding a connection with being, with nature, and with that original silence modernity has almost forgotten. He doesn't offer easy solutions, but rather an invitation to shift perspective. Freedom not as an individualistic conquest, but as a way of dwelling in the world with awareness. In the end, Sartre, Nietzsche, and Heidegger don't say the exact same thing, but they touch the same core. Freedom is a profound condition, sometimes dizzying, but also generative. It's the space where one can decide who to become, reinvent values, or recover a more original sense of existence. They don't promise certainties or offer consolations. They offer tools. And these tools are more necessary now than ever. In a time when habits often replace thought and choices are outsourced to impersonal mechanisms, recovering freedom means returning to the act of questioning, even when it's uncomfortable. It means refusing to be defined by roles or slogans and consciously shaping one's own trajectory. Hope doesn't lie in reaching some final truth, but in the ever-open possibility of choosing with authenticity. Living without a map isn't a sentence. It's a radical possibility. Anxiety, emptiness, and disillusionment are not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new clarity. This is the strength of existentialism. It doesn't deceive, it opens. It doesn't soothe, it strengthens. It reminds us that even without a pre-written script, there is always a space in which human beings can decide how to navigate their existence. And within that space, every authentic choice is already a form of hope.